So you was supposed to be originally the broadcast writing, well, who I was hoping to get into broadcast writing today. But after reading a couple of your stories and some things that have happened in current time, I kind of want to spend time doing not necessarily a full review, but or a revision, but just like to catch us up on what writing a good story looks like. Many of you are doing great, by the way. I think Emma's story got published. Great, great job. So you guys are doing great. Some of your stories, and by the way, just not just you guys, but those online as well. Your stories are literally making it. Your stories are literally making it as the top stories consistently. Everyone here, from Patrick, from Katrina, from to Kelsey, Faith, Jazz. Or everyone, your stories are literally making it to the top. So I really want to tell you that I appreciate that. But my goal is that it gets better, right? And like myself too, like even as a professor, I still hope to get better when I write, and that's the whole goal, to like just become more of a good writer until like you really never stop learning. So I'm going to be making some quick revision on writing, and maybe we could even use the opportunity to brainstorm on a story together, right? So I would want everyone to be active and participants, okay? We're going to brainstorm on the story. If we have time, we can go into broadcast writing, but if we don't, it's fine. We can always do that on Wednesday. Because the term is technically rounding off, so my goal is to do some broadcast writing and then do some um artificial intelligence, how it has been used in most newsrooms and what you should know about it, so that you can talk about it intelligently, and maybe do some other forms of journalism like solutions journalism. But those are optional. That could come later towards the end of the week or of the month. All right. So I think we have time to get through this. All right. So broadcast, we're going to do broadcast. I'm going to start with audio and then eventually do TV. But for now, let's kind of just talk about writing in general. Some of the things I've noticed in your writing. So again, your media center stories are due April 30. Is April 30 the last day of the month, or is it 31st? April. Good, good, good. I still remember my rhymes from like elementary school. So please submit to me. Let me check it out. Sometimes I might not get to it. It's fine if you send it to the arrow if it's due. Or please submit it to me. Let me take a look at some more. There are some stories I wish I would have revised before you turned it in. Some of your stories, and you guys noticed it. If I sometimes I make huge tweaks to your headlines, and it kind of picks up. For example, there's one that made it as one of the top stories. I think it was the one Faith wrote about who wrote the resignation from SGA story. That's it, right? And the story was initially not focused on the resignation. It was just, he just mentioned it. But we had to like tweak the headline to the so that the headline talks about, because the resignation is the biggest thing. So please let me get through your story. I think I do fairly well when I go through your story. I kind of try to go through it with a fine comb. If you've seen my feedback, I take time to read those stories because they matter. I take time, except for the sports guys, which some of them are great, but I don't, because I don't know a lot about sports, so I do the best I can. But for other kind of stories, I take my time to comb through it. Right. So please submit your stories to me before you send it to the arrow. And again, if I don't get to it and the deadline is close, please send it to the arrow nonetheless. My office hours, again, I'm always saying this. Tomorrow, I'll be at the office from 12:30 to 3:30. Come around, send me an email. Let's talk about stuff. You have an idea, you're not sure how to make it work. Come talk to me. Let's brainstorm on sources and stuff. You can also send me an email. We can chat via email as well. Okay. Guys, you need more sources. It's not enough to write a piece about anything at all, whether it is about five places or five trends or five myths, different, whatever it is, you need sources. Sources make your story sing. It makes it just sing. First, it balances your perspective. There was a story written by someone online. It was a very good story, but it just had it was about a feature. But the person the feature the person the feature was about had just two quotes. Really? Come on, guys. Really? You're doing a feature about the person, but the person spoke just twice, and every other thing was they won this, they earned this, they recognize this. No one cares about that. The reason why we're reading it is because we want to know, for example, right? So let's call this person. I can't recall the name now. I think it's like Inko. I can't remember who it is. Right? And those online, you're probably like listening. So she has won a lot of stuff and great stuff. Like she has a lot of recognition. Good. But if you're going to do a feature on her, why should we care about her? It's a feature on her. We know she has won stuff. And it's good to mention those, but we want to know who she is, right? What was the motivation that got her to the point where she has won so much that someone else could learn from? How did she start? What does she like about the sports? When was the first time she ran or she got involved? What did that feel like for her? Right? You could also find out like how many people her age or or her peers have achieved what she has achieved. How did that make her feel? You see how you're going into the emotions part of things? But if you just go on, oh, so she won this and she earned this award and she scored this in this game, in this particular game, she floored and she was so happy that she did it. I was so happy, said Inko. Her coach said this, and this. And then she even attributed her success to her teammate. And the next game she'll be playing is okay. I mean, I could pull that out from the internet. But what I can't pull from the internet is when she was 9, when she was 10. She probably broke her feet, but for some reason she continued, and eventually she had this particular opportunity when the main person wasn't around, and the opportunity presented itself, and she played, and she was spotted. As a matter of fact, that's how she got to SEMO. And how did she feel about that? She felt so grateful. At first, she was scared, but eventually she did it. She can't imagine herself being. That's probably something you would want to read, right? So it's a sports story, the sports feature, but it goes beyond the sports. It goes into the person, who the person is. That's a good story. That's a good feature story. Let's even use a different example. Let's say a different example about that's your story, trends, right? Which is trending again, which is very interesting. 2026 trends, right? Great piece, right? And you talk about, let's say, 3 to 5, I think around five trends. Wouldn't it be cool to see a student who started participating in one of those trends and is now encouraging her friends to go into it? Wouldn't it be cool to see a professor talking about how this trend started in the 1920s, but today it is repeating itself? It goes to how to talk about how trends can be very circular. We are still talking about trends, right? But see how you can use human sources to dot the story in a way that brings out the humanity in the story. So every story can use humans. If it's about the one I think Faith wrote about staycation, right? Interview someone who has been to those places and how they felt, if they hated it or if they loved it. If you're doing something about activities, don't just tell us these summer activities are happening here at this time by this date. The next one is happening here. I mean, we can get that online. What would make me read it is someone said, last time I went here, this happened, and I would want to go again with my son. I want to read that. So that's how you use human sources, even for those doing videos like Mark. Use get people's emotions. Let me tell you the truth. Good stories are good, but stories that make emotions flare are what makes good stories, right? There's a reason why the albino deer was a top story. People read about it. Why? It felt cute. Emotions. So imagine if in that story, like Maria had someone talk about when they saw it, how it made them feel, or someone who has killed an albino there before. The human. Don't avoid. Even if sometimes you do a story and you have so many humans, but you don't even let them talk. Let the humans talk because the humans are what it makes your work easier. Honestly, let them talk and you just capture what they're saying and capture that emotions, right? So always add the human touch to your stories. They balance your perspective. You can't just have one person of a story. Get a different perspective, not necessarily opposing, but a different perspective to a particular story. And this is key when interviewing. Have them share anecdotes. Always have them share. This is powerful. I This is how I learned how to interview. Right? When something happens, tell me the set. I have this. I'm actually going to play for you if you did it. Help me set the scene for the first day you came into school. What were you wearing? What did it feel like? Right? Tell me a story about the first day you went for the sheep competition and how did it feel?
Nervous, and I'm not anymore.
I won't read that. Don't go and ask is do. Those are close-ended questions. They're important. Close-ended questions are great to confirm what someone has said. Then they are great. They're fine. But open-ended questions are perfect. The way to make all of the questions open-ended is how. Tell me about why. Why did this happen? How does that make you feel when it happened? Would you do it again? If you did it again, how would you have done it? Thinking about it now, what were you feeling in that moment when you were doing it? And this is great for features. Again, if you're writing your straight story, of course you want to get the key facts. And I'm going to come to that because sometimes some of you don't even get the key facts. But if you're doing a feature, get into the emotions part of things. I hope I can play the story. So you see, so how many of you know last year, was it last year? Was last year when in Texas there was a storm at the Mystique camp that took the lives of around like 100 kids. Yeah. So this journalist from the New York Times, this is like the camp has been around for like centuries. So many people have gone through it. She went through it when she was a young girl too, but she's now a journalist. So she from this story, she was the reporter, but she was also the source of the story. Now it's a podcast. Everyone listen to this. Pause whatever you're doing. It's a podcast, but listen to the human element in the story. Listen to how the story started. What did you notice about? Because the story is about facts. It's about capturing how could this have happened. That was the whole point of the story. But I want you to listen to how. I hope it plays because it's on YouTube. But I want you to listen to how the story used emotions and the kind of questions that were asked. Okay? All right. So it's a podcast, but it's on YouTube. So
By Monday evening,
um this hope it plays. Perfect.
Christian summer camp today. The story of what that camp meant to the generations of girls who attended it. I spoke with one of them, Erin Paisan. It's Tuesday, July 8th. Well, Erin, thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's been a hard 3 days for a lot of us in the Mystic community. My first year at Mystic was 1975, when I was 10. And my mom sent me for 5 weeks.
And how many years did you end up at Camp Mystic?
Okay, so bubble in, tumble in, look out. Idiots.
Idiots. That's the name of a cabin?
Idiot's Delight was the name of it. I was there 6 summers.
Mm-hmm.
I was not there as much as a lot of other people, but it was just a very special place. for
I
me.
don't play all of it, right?
Yeah,
Just
those
a
are
little.
very formative years.
Yes.
Well, Erin, that's what we want to talk to you about. What Camp Mystic means to people, what it meant to campers like you, and why it occupies such a big place in the lives of so many people. And I wonder if you could take us back to the very beginning of Camp Mystic for you. Talk about your first impressions of this place.
Let me tell you about how I chose Camp Mystic.
What do you know this about those questions? Who can tell me?
And you're basically just asking to set up
The scene,
the
right?
scene, yeah, and give.
Context.
They're asking for a story, not.
Not an answer. Story. That's the feature. The news has happened, but you see, they are not just talking about what has happened. You're going behind what has happened to give us context, and it starts always with a story. Features are always, it starts with a story. So find this. Now, not all features are with the story. If you're writing like a blog kind of feature, which is like 5 things why or 2 things why, it's kind of different, right? But if you're going to be doing a feature, be curious about this person. Start the story. Take them back. So the way it works is build a narrative. You know how it is? We talked about inverted pyramids versus narrative style. Inverted pyramids goes for the facts straight up. Narrative is like, let's start from the beginning. When was the first time you became interested in this stuff? Walk me through that. Tell me the story of. Set the scenes for me. What were you wearing in that moment? At what point did you realize? You see how these questions are? They are not questions that are about tell me this fact. No, there are questions digging into someone's share. And the moment people start sharing those memories, they relax. And this is something you should learn for interview tips. We think of them as hybrid icebreakers because when people start sharing, they get comfortable with you. And at some point, you have so much stories to use. It's just the story. The story writes itself. Period. It writes itself. So that's something I would hope you guys, if you're interested in it, and by the way, you should, if you have time, take time, go listen to this podcast. It's so good. Like you might shed a tear if you have time. Go check it out. You would shed a tear. It's really, really good. But for me, it's about the storytelling. All right. All right. The next thing I wanted to share is use data to tell why your story matters. Whenever you hear why does the story matter, use data. Research. Most of you, I don't see a lot of research in your work. I don't. There's so much data out there, but you don't reach for it. So much. Like there's so much. So for example, you're writing a story about Inko, right? How she has become like a phenomenal sports star despite her little beginnings. You want to give us data on how many people start small and make it big. How many student athletes fall off at the beginning of their first year. What you're doing is you're giving us the context for this story. Why you're telling us why the story matters, why the story is different. Think of it think of it in that way. Why show us why the story is different. Why it is okay, let me ask you guys. Let me see if you guys are paying attention to the news. So what's the biggest news today? Who knows?
Others too. I mean, first is the Iron Warden Artemis is making the moon, going the deep far side.
Yes, so the Artemis too. I know most of you probably are bored from this, or you don't care. You don't care any reason for it. That's fine. You do?
I think it's so cool.
Okay, so what's happening here? Who knows what's happening
They're
here?
going to the moon first time since Apollo.
Are they going to the moon?
Well, they're flying around the
Exactly.
moon.
They are
Not
flying by.
the moon, but-
Moon. So why does it matter? Since
I mean, because the moon landing was never real, so I mean, they can't
Oh,
really do it
they-
again.
don't tell me you
So
believe
that's
that. Don't
really
tell
why
me-
they're not doing
don't
it,
tell me
but-
Hollywood proof Hollywood prove that out.
No.
How many of you believe the moon was real? Be honest. Crazy. Don't do it.
At least by the United States.
So you think Russia did?
Aliens real.
No. Yes. They are. You can't be hard, no.
No, that's the point. That's the point.
Sorry. I didn't
Well,
mean to
it's like,
interrupt.
well, we have the exact same amount of data to suggest that aliens are not real as we do to suggest that they are real.
No, babe, we cannot be the only thing.
I mean,
That'd be so
it-
cool.
it could be so big that we are the only.
You just get a bomb of like bacteria, there's the planet, and bacteria multiply and like evolve into a life form. Yeah, that's what I think they should do.
Okay. Anyway, let's. I know it's a different thing. Okay, fine. So Artemis is the trip around the moon carried out by the U.S. government since Apollo 3, right? And Apollo 3 was 50 years ago when the US was in a war arms race with the Soviet Union. So one of the questions that usually come up is how come the US landed on the moon in 50 years ago but haven't been able to do it since? There are reasons for that. No, hold on, there are reasons for that. Relax. There are explanations. One of them is motivation and money. But let's keep it aside. The point is now they're going to be flying across the moon, but we don't care for people flying across the moon,
Yeah,
So-
we'll do.
right? Fair point. Right? But but why do we care today? Not because we for the first time humans have now so Apollo 3 they actually had a journey of 240,000 miles. I just checked the news and they've crossed 252. So humans have gone further ever from Earth than we have ever been. But again, we don't care about that. Those in the astronomy community, that's their jam. They care about this. Is a big deal. For us, we don't care about it. But why should we care about this? We want to find out the why. Why would someone in like Cape Girardeau care about that some four individuals are traversing around the moon? Say again? Why are they doing it? For good, yeah. Why? Tell me. Are you saying they're going to the moon to build a gas station? I mean, it's true, but I mean, Earth is dying. So if you believe it, Earth Earth is dying, right? Yeah,
Okay, I might remember that it was the first photo of Earth since Apollo.
Apollo. Yeah, and it was stark. I mean, it could be, it could be, but it is stark. like the picture, and NASA has it on their official. If you want, you could go geek around about. They have a lot of footages on their site. The picture is stark. Like in the 50s, there were like a white ball around the Earth. Today, that white ball is gone. Right. So there's a lot of things. So there are many reasons. For one, someone in Cape will be like, well, how much are they spending on this stuff? Right. Those in a different community was like, well, what does it mean for the climate? Those in the tech industry were like, well, we could build new data centers on the moon. So you see how it matters to different people. You have to find this. And the only way you find this is research. But so you can't just, please, this is like a general advice. Don't get stuck on the first page of Wikipedia. Try. Go beyond that. Research, be curious. And I often tell people this. If you're able to answer these questions about any story, you'll be shocked at how much you would know. Look up these questions. Who is going? So in this story, who are those involved? The US government, NASA, who else? The 4 astronauts, right? Then what is happening? We know they're flying around the moon. They're doing like a flyby and they're going to come back to Earth on the 10th of April. Where? To the moon. They left from Florida. They'll be landing on the coast of San Diego, I think, it's in California. When? They left on the 1st, I think, or I can't remember when they left. They'll be back by 10. Now, this is where the story is. Usually, this is where the story is. Why? All right. So if you're doing a story, if you have not gotten to this point, you find out that you struggle with the story so much. Why and how would push you beyond the Wikipedia page? This is the questions that you must answer. You'll not necessarily find it in one place. You have to push beyond, and this is why you use data. Sometimes data tells you why, and sometimes you don't even need to go dig out the data. Some people have already distilled it for you. Find the data. Why is it happening now? And why does it matter to your audience? And I have some errors here, but I also wanted to add for everyone who has interviewed someone, please keep a relationship with your sources. You would need them. The only way you get good stories is from sources that you build relationship with. Sources share more when they know you and trust you. So if you've interviewed someone, don't just dispose of their number. Keep tabs with them because you will need them. All right, this is so key. As a matter of fact, the journalist today is not the one who can tell stories, the one who has good relationship with good sources. Because when the time comes, the sources will tell you because they trust you. That's how journalists get really, really deep stories because their sources trust them. So please keep a good relationship with your source. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so we're going to do some story distillation. Like I said, I was going to do broadcast by this kind of. I want to see you guys push beyond just the headlines, push beyond just the mere. You know when your story is a bit lazy. I can tell that you know that. When your story shows a bit of push beyond the laziness and do a good. See, I would rather you do in this month 2 good stories and no other stories than to do 3 or 4 stories that are light. I'd rather you take your time, do 2 good stories. Take your time. And a good story doesn't need to be 700 words. In 500 words, you can do a very, very good story. It's the quality of sources you have, the quality of information you have, putting it together, answering all the questions anyone would anticipate. Because the reason why we write stories is we're trying to answer questions people are anticipating. So from the digest, they had something on updates on Iran. Is anyone writing that here? No, I think that's like Sarah, right? But let us use that as practice for our story. So this is our prompt for this class. Everyone, pull up your computer. We're going to do research and distill the story. This is our prompt. Update on Iran. If we're going to play it by the rules of And this also is what's new, right? Because that's what we care about. The war has been going on for how long? You will find out that was new. Then how? This why should someone here in Cape care? What is impacting them that would make them care? Okay, so let us start. Who are the actors involved in this updates on Iran? The US. Who else? Israel. Who else? Iran is involved, obviously. Individuals. If you're going to go by individuals, who else? Right? The president, Trump. Who else?
Oh, yes. Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Good. 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 The Pope made a comment. So you see how we are getting a sense of who, and there's still more, but for now, let's just go with that. What's the what and what's new? Do your research, guys.
The more you'll,
Decimate Iran. A comment. What was that comment? Right. I mean, it's news. Yeah, why not? It's news. He said it, so it's in the public. Who who wants to risk their academic life? Because I wouldn't do it. You do it. I'll write it. I mean, fair point. Fair point. But is that the biggest thing in the tweet or in the post? So we know that, hold on, guys, hold on. We know that the Strait of Hormuz is still under lockdown. Is that really true? Who wants to check? Have they made some moves there? Again, this is just this. We are distilling the story in real time, even if you're not going to write it. But I want to get your juice into like curiosity and research. Do Googling and find out what's happening. What's happening with the Strait of Hormuz? Use other news sources. Yeah. Tuesday. So there's a deadline to make the deal, which is where we are, and that deadline is actually when. So there's a deadline. And again, by the way, for those who don't care, for those who actually care, sometimes in newsrooms, this is what typically newsrooms do. You come together in the mornings to distill the story to make sense of who is doing what, and make sense, like get a sense of what's happening. All right. So deadline at what 8 p.m. EST, right? EST ET. All right. What else? So straight up from Hormuz, this is happening here. Where else? There's something big that happened in the weekend that we could drag into this morning. So someone was rescued, right? Again, guys, check. Again, you this is something you might not care about, but I the whole point is to distill a story you don't even care about. It's actually good practice. Right? So yes, so some flyman was shot down, and then the US rescued him. How much was used in rescuing him? Check. Google, how much was spent? How much was his rescue worth? You will actually find it. Google. Yeah, a lot of papa this, but the US had to do certain deceptions to get to him. So they actually did certain things. What did they do? And how much was it worth? Google. Based on what news source? Tell me though. Yeah, go on. And don't use Google overview. Sometimes it's not accurate. Click on the links. Make journalism pay. Click on the link. It was worth something. Find out. Right? Do some research. While you're doing that, so we have a deadline, which is when. We do have any other when happening. So Easter, we could say Easter Sunday, but that is old because he made that tweet on Easter Sunday, right? But that is like a when. Then why? We are now getting into the main part. Why should anyone care in Cape? Think of whenever you hear why should anyone care, think money, security, safety. Safety, money. What was the last one? I can't remember now. There's security, there's money, there's a third one. I can't remember now. Things like lifestyle. I think I mentioned in the beginning of this class. But think in those terms. That's why people often care. What would impact my health? The health.
Hundred and ten and 310.
So we are doing like a 250 on average. They offered what? Yeah. Yeah. So, but luckily, no one took that deal. All right.
One this morning.
So it's climbing up to like upwards of 500K, 500M. Yeah. Okay. How does money connect to the current budget being slashed? Someone else could do that. Now, pause. You see what we are doing with this story. Now, I don't expect you to do this by yourself because I've worked in the museum, so I'm a bit experienced. But I kind of want to show you the depth sometimes of where you can go. And at some point, the story starts writing itself. Because now, when you're writing the story, let's assume that I actually want to finish this spot. So why should anyone here in Cape care? Again, think money, safety, health, gas, right? How much is gas price? Over $4, right? So has it reduced? Who wants to check? Check AAA. AAA is usually a good source to check gas prices. What's the gas price for Missouri? For Missouri or for the country? Yeah, check for our own space here. Check Missouri. 3.59. What? 85, really? What was it 1 month ago? Right? So this person here is caring about this, right? So if we're going to write a story on updates on Iran and we're in Cape, where makes sense to start with the story? Yeah, if we're going to write a story about war updates on Iran, but we also want to make it relevant to those in Cape. And we already have that, but if we're going to do an update, we could include that, but how do we start this system?
It's got to be kind of social services and kind of that probably papers like standard social.
For military, right? So you were still in the money, right? Right. So we want to also give people the news. So the latest thing is the deadline, right? So it makes sense to even start with the deadline about the streets, and then we connect it to how it's impacting gas prices, but also give us more context on the budget cuts and how much was used in rescuing this. And then, you've made that connection. Then every other thing could now be additional detail. As you go deeper in the story, you could even mention about this part. You see how this updates comes together? Because we just did a lot of research on this. But most people will just go, okay, what's the newest thing? And sometimes it works. And now you will now have things to ask some political scientists about what's happening. Because there's a lot of things happening. You now know that this is not a story about even just a political scientist, it's a story for an economist. What does this mean, like economic wise? Right? I would love to see someone talk to a gas station owner on why gas prices have not dropped and how does that impact them directly. You see how sources, if you distill the story correctly, the sources by itself will start coming out by itself. Sometimes they might not always come out, but most of the time it just comes out. Questions? Okay. Do you want to distill one more? Let's do one more fun one. What's a fun topic that's happening? Let us do a movie or some trend. What's the latest movie? Project Hail Mary? Well, let's do something everyone cares about. Okay. So let's do something everyone has watched. Again, I want to get you guys to like learn how to distill stories. Just make it sometimes you might not get it all the time, but if you do a little bit of work, you will be shocked at how much you can find to ask.
Talking about the Super Mario. Right, order for movies. Cool.
Okay, let us not do movie because some people might not have watched it. So let us do trends. Let us do something that everyone is interested. So what's happening, Sophie? What's happening?
I think I read something like this. I've seen it from like it's a placebo effect.
What's the cutting mix? Oh, restricted. Oh, let us do it. Now, the reason why we're doing it is the why, is health. So health is always very important. So what do you guys call it? Cutting mix? Is that how it's spelled? Okay, so what is it about? Give us the what. What is it exactly? Weight loss.
Like
Oh,
a
so is this a diet? Now let's just visual. A lifestyle. Oh, hold on. Please help me, guys. Here, is it a lifestyle or is it a product or is a product? Is it like a plan or an actual product that you like an item?
drink.
Yeah.
Oh, let us research. Go online, do the search. Tell me. So what? Do some search. Start with cutting mix.
Saying that drink mixes are
So you see, it's yeah, Katrina. Go on.
just like drink mixed in with pills.
Oh my gosh. Are we getting to that point of eating disorders again? Oh my days. Connected to because this is This is not really the story. This is like a symptom of something bigger.
And oral authority debates
What's that?
gut tear
I mean, that's what GLP-1s do.
side effects and a little bit they do. For that because it's not right. That. So
Is it FDA approved?
over here.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like that. Being advertised on TikTok is they're not paid advertisements, they're sponsors. So
Yeah.
it's either giving it for free or about themselves, they can add or quote for it and they get you like that's for purchase.
Oh, they get like a commission. So they are not advertising it, they are just like saying that it works for them. Yeah, endorsing. So apparently the what is not so much about the cutting mix itself. The what is that there's a increase in what? Increase in is it correct to say short cutting the weight loss journey, or it's just increase in yeah, beauty standards. Yeah, yeah. That's what it was for, to access it. My friend literally couldn't access hers. Okay, hold on. Let us so you see how this story could blow out of proportion. Let us anchor it into something new. So we call that a new ski, right? So let us say the cutting mix is something. So apparently there is a trend of people using this particular product to lose weight, right? Is that what they are actually doing? They are using it as a way of losing weight. Losing weight and becoming skinny. Is that what it is? Help me, guys. With the goal of losing weight. So that's the how. The how is what it does. So, and the why is the body standards. Now, we want data to show how many people are comfortable with their body or how many people are trying to lose weight. But it's like, again, this is just my bias. It's like, anyway, forget my bias. I don't my bias. It's just crazy. It's crazy. So the cotton mix again is a product, right? Now, do we know what's inside of it? Do you want to Google and do some research? What's its content? Does it have GLP-1s in it, or is just a different kind of product?
But I think like that I I'm so sorry. It's a lot of these.
Yeah,
Big ones are I haven't like made one.
yeah.
So that maybe maybe feel full longer, but it's to encourage you to drink water.
I'm sorry I'm messing up your social media feed if that's what's happening.
With the actual weight loss effect, then for flavor, it's cinnamon bark. Also with weight loss, propane, high I think it's
This is very interesting. Yeah. So I think what the story is that a lot of people are looking for shortcuts to losing weight. Which is what most things are. Yeah.
Ginger and then oh, really
And, and hope you guys know that the placebo effect. Do you guys know what that is? Right? You know it actually works. If you think something is working for you, there's a world in which your body responds to that feeling. Right? So people are trying to shortcut. They're looking for shortcuts to losing weight. But why should we care about this? Is it having dangers that are not being talked about? Do the research. Google, guys. Tell me what are the dangers of this kind of short shortcuts. And now there are benefits too. There are people who have benefited from, I guess Oprah. I mean, she looks her. Okay, so the negative impact of bodily image. Let us talk about money. Okay, again, money is so key. How much are these guys making? This industry. Check, Google. How much are they pulling in? Selling supplements. So Google and see if there's like usually like there are industry estimates for this kind of product. They'll give you like an estimate. 80,000. It should be more than that. It should be millions. Check. It should be millions. So think of it as how much the industry is likely to make. Diet drink, exactly. Yeah. Which is not, but it's fine. Now, see, check. So let us make it about this story. Let us add academics, GLP-1s, and something else. All of those kind of how much are those weights? Think of it as weight loss industry. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So how much is the weight loss industry pulling in? Right? Now that sounds more like it. Right? And then what are typical impacts on people's health that have been reported? Have people died from this? How many people they are? How many people have had terrible side effects? Have you had situations where people started and it worked and eventually they went back to the way they actually were? Sure, you would see something. I mean, keto is like more like the way you eat, the kind of things you eat, right? But it has dangers too. I've heard. Do you know? I read a story about keto. Someone did keto for like years, and eventually they become allergic to like meat. Right? It's crazy, right? So these guys are pulling in nearly a, a fraction of the United States budget.
So one or it must be for
Yeah,
type 2 diabetes.
but they are taking it. They are depriving people.
Thinks about nutrition.
True, and it's like Sylvester, I think you said it, like, it's depriving actual people who actually need it. Look for data. No, true. I think you said if you don't eat enough, it's fine.
You're basically, your body's starting to melt.
Fair point. Fair point. Oh, okay. No, so the way GLP-1s work, and this is what we're going to end with, and that's why I'm having you guys do this research. How do GLP-1s work? Fair, but there's a way it kind of does it. It's actually a natural.
One receptor within your body.
Yeah.
That's a appetite suppressant and a metabolism booster.
Yeah. So your GLP-1 receptors, yes.
Like weight loss, something for like great. It's a lot of chemicals that can cause cardiac arrest and cardiovascular problems.
Right. So there's cardiac arrest and cardiovascular issues. Yeah, but GLP-1s, and this is what we're going to end with. GLP-1s, we all have our GLP-1s in our body. It's like a receptor that we all have. It is the thing that tells you when you're eating that you're full, so that you can cut how much you eat because it's trying to regulate. What happens is that most people's GLP-1s have become insensitive. So it actually doesn't pick up on signals enough, and sometimes we overeat, right? And then your insulin rises, and because your insulin keeps rising, your insulin becomes insensitive, and it just rolls into something worse. The GLP-1 drugs, what they do is they help your insulin, they help your GLP-1 receptors become more sensitive. So you feel fuller than you actually are. And the way the body works is truly weight loss is the less you eat, the skinnier you become, period. Because the body would adjust. So that's how it works. But it now becomes a problem because if what if people's GLP-1s are fine and you're overloading your body with GLP-1s? The body has a way of adjusting to that. The body would start storing it as something else. Right? And if you read the stories, you find out some people have fallen terribly ill from it. So what is the story here? If we're going to do a story, we could use this coding mix as a key. Now, listen, we could use this as a key. Like this is happening right now, and this is what's happening. But this is not just a thing. It's part of a bigger trend about these people, right? And this is how much they are making. So we want to talk to a health expert. Also want to talk to, that's why they tell you everything has economics in it. I want to talk to an economics about why this is happening. Also regulation, because sometimes if you call something as like a supplement, it's fine. It's not a drug. So you don't get as regulated as much as something that is a drug. So that's why those names are key. Right? So see, when you start, you use this, you can't talk about this without talking about this money or talking about these people or not mentioning GLP-1s or not talking about the side effects of this stuff or even the benefits or even the body standards. And this takes research, right? So I want you guys to like spend time in your stories, 2 stories you're doing for this month. Take out time, make it work. Again, it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be. You just spend time like digging into the story. Questions? Let's stop. Questions before we call it a day. Questions on anything we've talked about so far. I said we're supposed to do broadcasts.